Hey guys, welcome back to the Homestead fam. Today we are making and preserving pasta. So this is something that I've been asked about time and time again. So I'm gonna sit down and show you from start to finish how I make homemade pasta and then how I preserve it so that I can just pull it off the shelf and have a quick and easy homemade meal in the matter of like 15 minutes. If you're new here, my name is Mel and I am the owner of the Homestead fam, where I show you how to do everything homestead cooking, homestead kitchen, whether that means growing, making, or preserving all of your food. So before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button and we will get right into it. So first, let's chat about why I make my pasta at home. There's kind of three reasons. Number one is health. So I like to make all of my things at home, or as much as I possibly can without just like going insane, because it is better for my health, better for my family. It makes us feel better. Number two, it tastes better. So not only is it better for us, but it just tastes better. Homemade pasta, there's just no comparison to store-bought. And then number three is it's budget friendly, or it saves us money. So pasta is kind of one of those where you're kind of cutting even, or if you're buying the absolute lowest price, the cheapest brand at the store, homemade pasta might be more expensive. But all in all, when I'm cooking from scratch, it often saves us money. And if it doesn't, if you go to the store and buy a comparable pasta, it probably is going to be cheaper than a comparable pasta if you're comparing like good ingredients, how it's made, and how fresh it is. So keep that in mind when you're going into this, and let's get started. So you can see that I have a ton of eggs to use up, and our chickens have been laying like crazy this spring. So no better way to use them than homemade pasta. So we're gonna be using a lot of eggs today. And then I've got some of my flour and ingredients all set out and ready, but pasta can be kind of messy. So I'm gonna grab my apron on, or else I'm going to be covered in flour by the end of this. And then we will get right into it. So I am using my pasta recipe that is in my Back to the Basics recipe book today. This book is full of all of your household staples, whether that be pasta or bagels, breads, condiments like mayonnaise, ketchup. So if you don't have that, I highly recommend. It makes my kitchen run so smooth, and I have the people who have bought it already have been telling me the same exact thing. It's so easy to just pull off your shelf, restock your kitchen, and be ready for the week. So first, we are going to have a clean countertop because we are going to be making it right on the counter. You can make it in a standing mixer. I have done this before, but it's pretty traditional to just do it right on the counter and do it that way. So that's the way we're going to do it. So this is 8 cups of flour, and I'm quadrupling my batch today. So when I make this stuff, I almost always make a huge batch and preserve it, which is the intention for today. So usually a single recipe calls for 2 cups of flour, but I'm quadrupling the recipe today and doing 8 cups. So I have my flour here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to take this and kind of make a indent to make it kind of like a bowl. And then this is where we are going to put all of our eggs, our water, oil, and salt in. So with 8 cups of flour, I am going to be doing 9 eggs. So I'm gonna put those in the middle right now. All right, one more. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just kidding. I need one more. 9. All right, we've got all of our eggs in there. I'm gonna set those in there and give those to my chickens later. And so we have our eggs in here, and now I'm gonna add my water. I already pre-measured this out, and it is usually 1 tablespoon of water for a single batch, but since we are quadrupling it, this is 4 tablespoons of water. And then I am going to need 8 tablespoons of olive oil. And I did just say olive oil. Usually I use olive oil, but I'm using avocado oil today because I've been kind of making the switch to avocado oil because I like it better, I think. So that is what I am using. Okay. And last but not least, we are going to add our salt. And we're going to do 4 teaspoons of salt. And I like to use pink Himalayan salt. It's pretty much what I use for every single thing in my kitchen, whether it's baking or cooking, hence the huge tub of it. And that's where I also save the most money, is buying ingredients in bulk, just like this. So we have all of our ingredients on the inside of our flour bowl here. I'm gonna grab a fork. And we are just going to start whisking the middle together to get those eggs all whisked up nice. And we're gonna combine the ingredients in the middle first. Once this is nice and whisked together, we're just gonna slowly bring in the flour from around and keep whisking it all together until we have a smooth ball of dough, but it will take a little bit. So if you end up doing this in your standing mixer, you're gonna wanna use your dough hook. You don't wanna use the whisk or anything else like that because it's not going to come together like you want it to. So use your dough hook, and then you're gonna wanna do it on low speed and just slowly bring everything together. If you are doing it in the standing mixer though, I would combine your inside ingredients first. So I'd whisk that all together and then add it to your flour instead of putting it all in there, because then your eggs might not get whisked up as they should. Again, just slowly bringing that flour in. And then once it gets to a point where I feel like it's workable with my hands, I'm gonna move to using my hands because it goes so much easier. And my arm is already getting tired. So it will just be that much smoother and come together quicker than just using the fork. I think I'm almost to that point because I've got nothing, I don't have anything like runny anymore. It's all starting to come together. I think I'm gonna move to using my hands. Now, it is going to be sticky if you start using your hands at this point, but I would rather do that than slowly keep whisking. So I'm just gonna incorporate all this flour into my eggs until it creates a nice dough. So if you have any extra flour, or you feel like you're going to, at this point you can see like I have a big ball of dough in the middle and I have quite a bit of flour on the outside. So still just slowly incorporate the flour into the dough. So keep the excess flour on the outside, keep slowly incorporating it. And this way you won't end up adding too much flour, because you can always keep that on the outside and end up not using it, but you don't want to end up having way too much. So since this is a quadruple batch, it's gonna take some elbow grease to actually get it to all come together And I can already tell that I'm probably not going to be using all of this flour. But you want to knead this for quite a little bit until it is a nice, very smooth ball of dough. I'm actually going to clear some of this flour here. I'm not sure why I have so much flour left over, but that is okay. That's why we slowly add it in. And now you can tell right now that I am doing the typical like kneading, but I will show you in a minute my preferred method of kneading. I think it just incorporates your dough just quicker, and then also it's a little bit easier on like the wrists and the hands. So I have a pretty big ball of dough that doesn't have any more clumps or lumps in it. So I'm gonna start moving to that other kneading method I like to use. And if you don't wanna use this, you don't have to, but this is just what I prefer. So it's going back and forth with each hand. And I feel like this just helps the dough relax, combine even more. And it actually, there's like more kneading to this, so it makes it go by a little quicker. It's gonna be hard to do on a very floured surface though, so make sure your surface is pretty clean. See how I cleaned this off over here before I started? Because it's just gonna like go like this across your table if you have too much flour. So you're going to want to have a clean surface so it just barely like grabs to the countertop. Okay. And with a normal kneading, to get everything in there good. And I feel like this is very well put together. There's a good mixture. I can tell by the texture of the dough. It's smooth, it's not tacky, but it's not super floury. You want it that good in between. You don't want it too sticky, or else it's not gonna cut well, and it's not going to be like easily, like if you have a pasta machine, you're not gonna be able to run it through. It might stick. You're gonna have to add tons of more flour afterwards to get it not to stick. And then if it's too floury, it's just gonna fall apart and the texture is not gonna be very good. So I'll show you what it looks like. I would say this is about done. It is very smooth. It doesn't have any lumps, and it's not like sticky at all. So I'm gonna now let this sit. I'm gonna cover it, and then I'm gonna let it rest for about 30 minutes, and that just lets the gluten in it relax. It'll make it easy to roll out and cut. So this is the time where we're gonna let this relax, and I'm gonna clean up my mess. Now you can use just about anything to cover this. You could put it in a bowl with some plastic wrap over it. You could put it in a plastic bag, but I like to just flip a bowl upside down and cover it over top. It's easiest that way. There's no extra bowls. This is actually the bowl I had the flour in. So less dishes, less to worry about. Just cover it up and let it rest for 30 minutes. And then I will come back and we will roll it out and cut it. Okay, we are back. It has been about 30 minutes, so we can remove our lid or take it out of the bag or whatever you did. And we now have our dough. It should be a lot more relaxed than when you put it under there. And that is what we want. So I have a couple things I want to show you. I'm going to show you what I do, but then some also alternatives if you don't have the certain equipment that I do. So I have a pasta machine here. These are like 30 bucks, and if you are gonna continuously make pasta, I would highly recommend getting one. But if you're just starting out and you've never made it before, go ahead and just use your rolling pin and then either a pizza cutter or a knife to cut your slices. That's how I started, and then I worked my way up to this once I knew that I would consistently use it. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm going to take this. obviously it's 2 pieces. So this is the rolling portion and then this is the cutting portion. So I'm going to attach it to my counter. And then this one has a handle. I will link the one that I have down below too, in case you want to get one. And so this is how we're gonna cut it. And then you are gonna have your dough, but you're gonna also need some more flour to make sure it's not sticking to the machine, to itself, and everything goes smoothly. So I'm gonna get some flour. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to section this. And you want your sections to be pretty small or else you're gonna have huge long sheets of pasta. So I'm going to, we did a quadruple batch. So I'm gonna section this probably into like 16 different sections. So I'll probably section this one into 8 and that one I just cut into 8. So 1, 2, maybe even more than that. This is a lot of dough. It's gonna make a lot of pasta. I'm gonna do the same thing with this one. So I'm actually probably gonna do 20 sections for this amount. Okay, and they don't have to be perfect because it's just gonna make you're gonna roll it and cut it, so pasta isn't always perfect anyway. So what we're gonna do is we are going to take each section, and I like to just flour mine on both sides a little bit so it's not going to stick to anything as we're rolling it through the machine. So if you don't have one of these or have never used it before, there's different levels. You're gonna start on the like thickest level, and you're just gonna roll it through, and then you're gonna slowly make your way up to the thinnest level or whatever level that you want. And I'm going to keep flouring these in between, just making sure that it's not sticking to the machine or it's not going to stick to itself. Oh, I have something stuck in there. It was like cutting it. I had something stuck in my machine. And that's fine. If something happens like that, you can just kind of knead it back together and then start again. So it's not a bad thing that happened because I could show you what to do when that happens. But okay, so I'm just gonna re-roll this. Oops. All the way up to, I like to do the thinnest just because we like our pasta thinner, but for like soups, like a chicken noodle soup, I don't mind the thicker noodle, so sometimes I will leave them pretty thick for that. And then we have our pasta sheet. And so now we will take the rolled pasta and we'll move up to this section, and this is going to cut the pasta. And I am actually going to flour this one more time, even though it's not sticky at all. I will show you why in a second though. So I'm going to just put some flour on this side and cut my pasta. And look at that, we have fresh like fettuccine. So what I'm going to do now is you have 2 options of preserving. You can either dry it like this, and I will show you how to do that first, and you will just put it on a rack. Again, I have this pasta rack that I use after knowing I would use it quite often. But I started with a coat hanger. I would just lay it over a coat hanger and then hang the coat hanger up. Or I did also use like a cookie sheet to just lay it out flat and let it dry that way. So you can do it this way. Or I will show you on the next one what the other method is. So we're gonna roll another one out here. Back down to the thickest level. And this is the most time consuming part of it, and it's not hard by any means, but it's just the rolling and the cutting that makes it more time consuming. Putting the dough together is pretty simple and easy. It's all pretty simple and easy, it's just a little more time consuming. So now it is on the thinnest level. I'm gonna flour it again, and now I'm gonna cut it. I'm doing the fettuccine one today, but there is also like a spaghetti size cut on this one as well. So now for the second way to preserve, and this is my preferred way to preserve pasta. I think it keeps the freshness and the texture a little bit more accurate to like truly freshly homemade. So all you're gonna need is a cookie sheet, and I'm gonna make what you call little nests on the cookie sheet. So I'm gonna take this and I'm going to nest it up right on here. And this is why you wanna flour it that last time. You want to flour it so that when you make your nest, it's not gonna stick to each other, and there's gonna be enough flour in there to keep the noodles separate. So I'm just gonna make a bunch of nests and put it on here. Okay, I am just on my last couple rounds of rolling and cutting here, but while I was doing that all, I realized that the reason I had so much flour left over was because I only tripled the eggs in this recipe instead of quadrupled it, and I quadrupled everything else. So that should show you that pasta is really forgiving because the dough still is amazing. It's very smooth, it's cutting really well, and I'm sure it's gonna be delicious. So let that be your reminder that even if you've never made it before or you screw up in some way, you'll probably be fine, and you'll probably get pasta that's still better than anything you will find at the store. Okay, so this is my last one, and I have about actually like the perfect amount to fill up my drying rack and my cookie sheet here. So I'm gonna do about half in the freezer and then half dried. So this is my last one here. Give it one last sprinkle of flour. Now I have them all my nests on here, and I'm going to go stick them in the freezer just like this for about 30 minutes to flash freeze them. That will harden them, and then I can pick them up and put them into a freezer safe bag. And then I just put them into portions that I like for my family. So I'll probably put like 4 or 5 of these on there, and then we can pull them out and cook them as normal, and we will have homemade pasta. And then for the dried pasta, I'm gonna let these sit out for about 24 hours, or at least until you touch them and they like break at the touch. That means they are completely dry. And then you can store these in an airtight container. I like to use a 1/2 gallon mason jar, or you can put them in a bag or whatever else you have, and then pull them off the shelf just like you would store-bought pasta. However, homemade pasta is probably gonna cook faster, so keep that in mind. All right, so these guys are gonna go in here for about 30 minutes. Okay, our pasta is all frozen. I'll show you what it looks like. It's hard. It's not gonna fall apart as a piece falls on the counter, but it's not gonna like come apart. And I'm just going to take these and fill some freezer bags with my pasta. Again, just putting in about a serving size for your family. And I just kind of estimate on this. Mine's probably gonna be like 5 of these nests. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna seal this up. I always like to like suck out some of the air, so if you want to do that, you can. And then I'm going to label these and throw them in my freezer. There we go. See it now. I have 3 meals worth of pasta to go in the freezer. And let's see, it is about noon. I want to say I started this around 9:30 or 10 o'clock. So really only took like 2 hours, and 30 minutes of that was resting time, and 30 minutes of that was waiting on the pasta to get frozen on the tray. So in 2.5 hours, we have this, plus I have that drying back there. So that will probably be another serving, or not serving, but a meal or two of pasta for our family. And we will pull these out, and super easy, super quick, and so delicious. So if you liked this episode, please subscribe, but please let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and I will see you next time.